Chapter 18, Act 2. Panoosh, kid! What the sard's wrong with your shoulder? That wasn't the greeting I expected when I walked into the kitchen for breakfast. I jumped and whipped my head from shoulder to shoulder. Based on Ronnie's horrified reaction, I expected to see a giant, hairy rat wasp perched on one of them or something. But nope, both shoulders looked perfectly normal to me. I'd just gotten out of the shower and thrown on a teal tank top. I didn't know why Ronnie was so upset. Was teal not my color? What do you mean? I asked.
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Ronnie countered, dropping her cereal spoon into her milk.
Do you not see the giant red splotches covering your skin?
Oh, this? I pulled down the left strap of my tank top so she could see the entire mark. I thought it was a normal part of aging, like sprouting armpit hair or developing a taste for green olives. I said with an unconcerned shrug.
Oh, that's definitely not normal,
Ronnie retorted, walking over to poke the offending skin.
Sard, kid. Why didn't you tell me? Does it hurt?
No, it's fine. Besides, my shoulder has always looked like this. It's just gotten a little darker over the past month. Ronnie huffed in disapproval.
A little darker? It looks like someone hit you with a water balloon full of beet juice.
She let out a long, suffering sigh.
You need to get that looked at. Of course it would show up right after your last government-funded checkup.
I didn't reply. She seemed to be talking more to herself than to me.
It doesn't seem to be life-threatening, so it wouldn't be covered by MediTrust.
Ronnie thought aloud.
And I can't afford to take you to a private dermatologist.
She scowled, drumming her fingers on the countertop. Then her face lit up with an idea.
Hey, do you still have that card from Dr. Vincent?
2 hours later, I sat with my legs dangling over the side of an exam table in Dr. Vincent's office. I tried to move as little as possible out of fear of tearing the flimsy paper covering the table. Dr. Vincent and I were alone in the room. Ronnie was busy covering both of our body fluid maintenance duties.
Okay then, Miss Emily,
Dr. Vincent said in his calm, velvety voice.
Tell me what's the matter. Ronnie seems to think you're dying.
Aren't we all slowly dying? I joked morbidly.
Some faster than others.
He agreed with a polite smile, but I could sense a hint of impatience. He was, after all, giving me a free checkup out of the kindness of his heart. The least I could do was not waste his time. I got straight to the point. I have a giant red splotch on my left shoulder, and I guess that isn't normal.
Mind if I look?
He pulled on blue exam gloves. That's why I'm here. I smiled and shrugged off my overshirt before pulling down the strap of my tank top. Dr. Vincent gently prodded the discolored skin.
Has it ever itched or caused you any kind of discomfort?
Nope, I said immediately. Well, it sort of twinged once, I amended. But I was carrying home a heavy bag of groceries, so my shoulder was probably just tired.
When did you first notice the mark?
I think it's always been there. It's gotten darker over the past month, but I'm pretty sure I entered with it.
Let's pull up your record then.
He snapped off his gloves and tossed them into the waste bin. With a labored grunt, he settled onto his rolling work stool and began pecking at his digiscreen's keyboard.
Emily Starp,
he mumbled as he picked out the letters of my name.
What's your entrance date, my dear?
Bensman 7th, 2000. I pulled up my tank top.
All right, Miss Emily.
He clicked on a file.
Let's see what we've got.
He turned the monitor on its swivel mount so I could see it. I leaned closer for a better look. The paper beneath me tore in half with a loud rip. Oops. Dr. Vincent waved his hand dismissively and gestured to the monitor.
Alrighty, here's your Genesis video. If you've never seen one of these, you're in for a treat.
He pressed the play button. The video started with a view of a brightly lit, sterile white room. It looked identical to the operating suites I sterilized every day with one major exception. Instead of featuring an operating table, this room was built around a hot tub-sized pool of reddish-orange liquid. The pool was at floor level, with no protective barrier to keep someone from inadvertently slipping into it. That struck me as slightly dangerous, but maybe the liquid was more solid than it appeared on screen. For all I knew, it could be a cube of blood-orange gelatin. 4 steel cables extended downward from the ceiling into one of the corners of the pool. The liquid was too opaque to see what, if anything, they connected to.
"So, here's the Genesis pool,"
Dr. Vincent narrated, pointing to the screen.
"And here comes our Ronnie."
We watched as Ronnie entered the room with a woman in a white lab coat. The video had no sound, but Ronnie's body language said loud and clear that she felt nervous and uncomfortable. She rubbed her arms in a self-soothing gesture and crinkled her face in disgust as if she was affronted by a bad smell. The other woman, who I assumed was a doctor, gestured for Ronnie to sit on a nearby stool. Then the doctor pulled on a pair of gloves and pricked Ronnie's right pointer finger with a blood lancet. We watched as the doctor added the blood to a test tube, then dribbled it over the pool. The reddish-orange liquid bubbled before returning to its former tranquil state.
"Everything looks normal so far,"
Dr. Vincent said.
"The blood draw was clean and was correctly appended to the pool. So let's fast forward to the good part."
He sped up the video to 64 times the normal speed. Ronnie and the nurse quickly disappeared. The only movement in the video was the timestamp in the corner ticking through the hours. The lighting in the room switched to the green-hued tint of night vision and back again.
"And here we go,"
Dr. Vincent said, slowing the video down to only 2 times its normal speed. The steel cables went taut and began winding into the ceiling. A dark shape rose to the surface of the pool. The shape broke the surface, and I saw a familiar purple mesh net. The dripping net rose until it hung a couple feet above the surface of the pool. On top of the net sat a transparent sack filled with clear liquid. Inside that sack lay a small, pulsing red blob surrounded by pinkish-gray goop. The blob was still connected to the pool by a thick red cord.
"So there's the start of the mesoderm and the neural tubes,"
Dr. Vincent explained unhelpfully. His medical terminology didn't increase my comprehension in the slightest. The blob still looked like a weird mucus alien to me. Dr. Vincent sped up the video once more, so hours flashed by in seconds. Small scarlet tendrils spread out from the red blob in all directions. The pinkish-gray goop formed a knobby cord with a wrinkly, cantaloupe-sized lump on one end. The lighting switched from night vision and back 2 more times. The small red tendrils intertwined with the gray cord and continued to spread until they formed a humanoid shape, curled up inside the sack. I finally recognized the tendrils for what they were: blood vessels. The cantaloupe-sized gray lump, which I now recognized as a brain, was completely encased in ruby-red blood vessels. The space between the vessels filled as the lighting continued to switch between night and day. First came nerves, then bones, followed by internal organs, fat, muscles, tendons, and every other body tissue. I watched in awe as a body built itself from the inside out. Skin spread across the body. The color was a strange mix of pink and white and gray. Everything was still for a second. Then the body twitched and tried to stretch its limbs within the confines of its sack.
"Somebody's impatient,"
Dr. Vincent chuckled, pausing the video.
"Let's see if the mark was already present."
Then it sank in. That small, pulsing blob had been my heart. That strange grayish-pink creature in its fluid sac was me. I should have realized it earlier. Dr. Vincent had told me this was my Genesis video, but somehow my mind hadn't been ready to accept it was watching its own formation. I glanced from my hands to the hands of the body in the fluid sac. Were they really the same? Dr. Vincent zoomed in on the footage.
Hard to tell from this angle. Looks like you were a little camera shy,"
he teased. He resumed the video at a fast-forwarded speed. We watched as hair sprouted from my scalp and floated around my head. Again, everything was still besides an occasional twitch or kick from my body. Then Ronnie walked in with a different doctor. Dr. Vincent slowed the video to normal speed. The footage still lacked sound, but Ronnie's widely gesticulating hands showed she was upset about something. The doctor shook her head and pointed to my sack. It broke, pouring blood and clear liquid back into the pool. My newly formed body dropped onto the purple mesh net. My goop-splattered shoulders shook in a violent cough. As I watched, I remembered that moment and the awful feeling of suffocation that accompanied it.
"Ah, the miracle of life."
Dr. Vincent sighed in evident wonderment.
"Gets me every time."
Metal panels slid over the reddish-orange pool, hiding it beneath the floor. Water spouted from the ceiling, washing away any remnants of the Genesis pool from my newly entered body. Dr. Vincent paused the video once more and zoomed in on my left shoulder.
"Uh-huh,"
he said.
"There's a slight discoloration from your clavicle down to the top of your left breast. It's very faint. I can understand why it wasn't flagged for testing. Entrance marks are common."
I remained in stunned silence. Dr. Vincent turned to me and chuckled at my wide-eyed, slack-jawed expression.
"I told you you were in for a treat. I take it you were impressed?"
"So, that's how newbies form?" I gasped. Suddenly, I had a million questions. Wait, if I was made from Ronnie's blood, why aren't I an exact clone of her? And does it have to be blood, or could it be something else, like spit or hair? Is this how animals reproduce? Where did the pools come from? How did people figure out how to use them, actually? Where did the first people come from? Did they just crawl out of the pools one day?
"My dear Miss Emily,"
Dr. Vincent chuckled.
"You are brimming with fascinating questions. I'd love to answer them all, but I have a full docket of patients needing my assistance this morning."
"Right," I exhaled, trying to hide my disappointment. "Thanks again for fitting me in."
"It was my pleasure,"
the old doctor assured me, taking out a pen and his prescription pad.
"What you've got there on your shoulder is a completely benign case of dermal hyperpigmentation, or as I like to call it, a fire mark."
He scribbled on his pad.
"If you're bothered by the way it looks, you might be able to lessen it with laser therapy. It may also simply fade with time."
Dr. Vincent finished writing and smiled up at me. His twinkling eyes all but disappeared beneath his deep wrinkles.
"But between the two of us, I think it suits you."
"So you want me to go back to Ronnie and tell her to just stop worrying about it?" I asked with genuine concern. "She's not going to like that." Dr. Vincent chuckled again.
"Don't worry, I'll give Miss Veronica a call when I'm off duty. And you're not leaving here empty-handed."
He tore off the top sheet of his prescription pad.
"I want you to take this list to the library and check out all these books on the history and science of the Genesis pools. You have a hungry mind that needs nourishing."
He handed me the paper. I glanced at the list to see everything from catchy names like It's Not the Stork to wordy titles like Tennyson, an extracellular matrix protein involved in tissue interactions during fetal development and organogenesis. My eyes glazed over just looking at the list. But Dr. Vincent gave me an encouraging smile.
"Ronnie tells me you'll be entering trade school soon."
He eased himself up off his stool and opened the door for me.
"Congratulations. I think you'll take to it like a rhino beaver to swamp water."
I hope so. I laughed at his strange idiom.
"Oh, and one last thing, Miss Emily,"
he added as my foot reached the threshold.
"I don't know if you've thought about a major yet, but if you have any interest in medicine, I can tell you'd make a mighty fine doctor."